One second, let me share my screen, sir. So to introduce about myself, yeah, I'm just. So to introduce about myself, I am Dr. K.V. Sambasiva Rao, Dean of Computer Science and Engineering Department, working at NRI Institute of Technology, Agiripalli, in Krishna district of Andhra Pradesh. So I have been working there since 2014. I have a total of 32 years of experience in various levels of designations. So I worked as assistant professor, associate professor, then professor, principal, and dean. So coming to my qualifications, so myself, I did Bachelor of Engineering in 1986 from University of Mysore in the subject Industrial Production Engineering. And then I did my ME, Master of Engineering, in 1990 at BITS Pilani in Systems and Information Engineering, leading to a computer science degree. And later on, I did my PhD in 1995 from Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, in the area of expert systems, information systems, and decision support systems. And coming to my publications, I have a total of 45 international journal publications and 9 national journal publications. Then international conferences, I presented 10 papers. National conferences, I have presented 25 papers. Textbooks or proceedings, I have published 4. And the proceedings only, the proceedings I have published 7, textbooks are 4. So other national level articles I have published are 3. And I have a patent, and I have 13 projects from Government of India, Indian agencies such as AICTE, DST, and all. So worth 40 lakhs worth of projects I did. So this is the one which I did in 2008. So modernization of labs. Then I conducted international conferences, national conferences, and so on. These are my the research grants which I have obtained. And the number of PhDs awarded by me are 4 in number. And right now, 3 scholars are working for their PhDs. These are the scholars who did their PhD at my guidance. So with this profile, I would like to start my lesson. Yeah. So my topic is a crazy topic, so which is Fit India, a balance between ancient and modern. So you may think that what is this Fit India? Why do we require this particular title called Fit India? So why should we balance between ancient and modern? So what is there in ancient India? What is there ahead with the advantage of technology? So let us see. So imagine that a country like India has a very poor educational practices, pedagogical practices. So teaching means what we commonly think is that it is nothing but a chalk and talk, where 40 or 60 students sit in a class, and probably they are interested or they may not be interested. They are not interested, but still the teacher gives his subject delivery. So that is the common scenario across India. But there are some universities or technical institutions where the innovative practices or the modern pedagogical approaches they are doing. But coming to the rankings, world rankings of educational institutions. So our institutions are ranked, not ranked in top class, top ranks. So why most of the foreign universities, they are ranked first? So why not Indian universities? They are ranked at least below 100 range, or why don't they top the world rankings? This is what is the major question. So when we had very good practices with respect to teaching or pedagogical methods, India had practiced excellent methods with respect to pedagogical approaches. So India had universities called Nalanda and universities called Nalanda at Takshashila and many other universities, madrasas. So where thousands of foreigners used to visit the ancient India for getting the right education. And Indian gurus, so gurus of this land were largely appreciated by the world community. So so this was a scenario in the olden days, but right now the scenario is something different. So we lacked certain approaches or practices. What is that we are lacking? What is that we are missing? So let us have a revisit on the ancient system and also move towards the modern approaches, because Indians are very good at IT, so information technology. So can we take the advantage of IT with respect to the teaching methods? So of course, to some extent, the experts of various national level institutions and the the technology leaders, of course, they have to group themselves, sit together and formulate some policies so that IT can be adopted as part of teaching methods. So now let us see what is to be done, and because the most young population that the India has to be properly literated. So right now, students, most of the young population, of course, they are going to universities. They are getting their degrees, but are they getting the subjects? So are they literate? No. So all those who are getting degrees may not be literate persons. So now let us see the agenda of this session. Now, I'm going to talk about the introduction about Fit India, then what is there in the ancient education system, and what is called the spiritual education which India had, and what are the success mantras for a guru to teach uh, uh, to teach his students. Then what are student centric methods and what are modern pedagogical approaches? So with the conclusion, I want to conclude. So coming to the introduction, so why, whether the current education system, is it useful? So is it useful to the students? Because all those students who are graduating out of universities or colleges, are they employed or are they settling in their lives in a decent way? No. So still some dropouts are there in the education system. So some students, they join the course and the middle of the course they drop out because of so many reasons. Is it because of the student alone, or is it because of the system? So sometimes the students, they are really interested to learn and they join the course, but because of bad practices that the system has, that the institution has, so he may not be interested to learn further, and he gets dropped from the system. So and hence the present education system, is it really useful? So then whether teachers are giving best outputs, this is what is another question which is available in the uh, common media. So are they understanding the students, or what aspects they are considering with respect to deliberations of their lectures? So are they reaching every student, or are they are reaching only few students? Then our students are useful products. So all those students who are getting education or knowledge from institutions, are they the end products? So are they ready for industry, or are they ready for settlement? No. So as per NASCOM, so only 20 to 30% of the students, their graduates, are they are employable. So if this is the case, only 20 to 30% of the graduating students are employable, then what about the remaining? So remaining 70 to 80% of the graduates, what is their fate? So their fate is left to their choice. So some students, so they start their own business or they do something else. They beat around the bush, and finally, few students will settle in life, but few may not get proper career or life. So is this the real situation that we want? No. So let us visit the ancient education system, where a guru uh, takes a maximum of 10 or 15 disciples or students. So he will adopt those students with his day-to-day life, and these students, so they are attached to the teacher all the time, and they eat together, they discuss together, and they uh, the teacher teaches the students not in a specific time, but at the interest of the student or whatever at the position of the situation. So this is what was the this was the situation. And teacher is all in all. So is he teaching only one subject, mathematics, and leaving student? No. So he is teaching all life related or life skills. So he is teaching mathematics, he is teaching astrology, he is teaching the all related. He is teaching medicine, spirituality, then culture, everything. So he used to teach all the aspects in a nutshell for about 10 to 12 years. So once the student is to be declared as passed or declared as graduate of his particular school, then he conducts some tests at the end. Now let us see who is guru. So guru is nothing but a teacher. So who is a teacher? Teacher is a person who removes ignorance and who is a torch bearer of the society. So guru has greater responsibility. So and he has to reach he has to teach the students such that the student is useful for the society, and he is the torch bearer of the society. Why he is torch bearer of the society? If any practices which are not good for society, so teacher is the person who can remove those difficulties from the society by way of preaching the students in a proper manner. So and he takes disciples from darkness to light. So if any any things, so if the student thinks that certain things are not proper, so the reasons behind such practices are explained properly, and remove the darkness from the minds of the students. So that's what the teacher uh, used to do that. And he makes skilled and knowledgeable persons. So he makes everyone a skilled person and a knowledgeable person, and he builds a good society and a good nation. So this was the responsibility that Indian guru had. Now is this the practice that we have? So because we do have the limitation, because a teacher goes to the classroom and there are about 40 to 60 students. So and the limited time, so the time is given for 50 to 60 minutes, and the teacher has to cover his entire syllabus, the prescribed syllabus. He teaches only syllabus, but is he touching the real life skills or life skills? No. So is he teaching about health, then the society, then societal practices? Is he teaching? No. So he is teaching only the subject in the class, because the teacher is not getting enough time to explain most of the things, such as the health issues, then the future related plans, then making student so really stand in the society. These issues we are not teaching in the classroom. But of course, there are some good teachers. There are some good teachers who are teaching well beyond the classroom, or they're really influencing the students to understand and practice all these good habits. So coming to the spiritual education, So what is a spiritual education? Education, uh, so every individual used to get this particular spiritual education in the olden days. So what is spirituality? Spirituality is nothing but a blend of physical, psychological, sociological, and philosophical issues. So oneself, so whose mind, health, nature, and society culture, they are integrated and leading to an eternal world. So teacher used to teach yoga, medicine, cultural and societal issues in a nutshell. So this makes a happy path to the student to lead his life successfully. So thereby he is building happy society. So right now what we are teaching is, we are teaching only subject. So most of the cases, I don't say all, but some cases, most of the cases. So we are teaching only specific things. We are not teaching in an integrated way that the health, then the mind, health, mind, nature, society, culture, and a path to travel in the eternal world. So these issues we are not touching in an integrated fashion. So thereby the student has some unhappiness still. So because he knows only subject, when he goes out of the campus, he does not know how to reach a railway station, or he does not know how to purchase a railway ticket. So this is what is the most of the cases. And now, what is called Vidya? So, olden days or even the current days, Vidya is nothing but education. So, education can be classified into two: Paravidya and Aparavidya. So, Paravidya means studying of this subject. So, such as engineering, science, medicine, biomedical, management, uh, pharmacy, etc. So, this is called as Paravidya. And what is Aparavidya? Aparavidya is called as knowing about self. So knowing about self. So the teacher used to teach every student to know about himself. So his capacities and what practices are best for him, and what practices are needed for him, and what kind of the attitude or behavior that he is having, and how it is to be changed. So so this is concentrated in the upper vidya. So in the Indian education system currently, we are not concentrating on upper vidya. So we are concentrating only on the paravidya. So paravidya means, so the prescribed subjects: mathematics, physics, chemistry, computer science. So these are the subjects called as paravidya. So knowing only paravidya will not make a student successful. So there is uh, one picture which is available in the internet. I have collected this from the internet. So Lord Macaulay in 1835. So he wrote a letter to UK, British Queen. So when India was ruled by Britishers, he was appointed to observe the Indian education system, and also he was asked to submit a report so as to break the Indian education system, and replace Indian education system by the English education system. So just look at this particular picture. So what he wrote to the Queen of Britain. So he wrote as, I have traveled across the length and breadth of India, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar. So who is a thief? Such a wealth I have seen in this country, such as such high morals, high values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture, for, for if the Indians think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self esteem, so their native culture, and they will become what we want, and ultimately a dominated country. So this was what the letter that he wrote to the Queen of Britain, and so that's what he studied the entire culture. So there every person used to be illiterate, though they don't have a formal education from Guru. Every person used to be illiterate or a person who knows the values, culture, self, and all. Then so what so he wrote this, you can see this. So if the spiritual education, the backbone of this country is spiritual education and cultural heritage. If these two things are broken, then probably they can introduce English education properly. So that's what they did. That's what they did. So now let us see, let us adopt. Uh, I mean, we have reached at this point of time where we are teaching in English language, so in a different language, but not in mother language. So there was medicine and engineering courses in Urdu language when the Hyderabad Samsthan was there. So until 1953, so the education system at Hyderabad state was in Urdu medium. So people used to get right education because it is their mother tongue. So now how to revive this, hello, how to make this education system a value education system. So now I am putting some points. So teach them values apart from syllabus. So every teacher has to take some time in the class. So probably 5 to 10 minutes. Leave about subject because students can read the subject on their own. So we are supposed to give only the basics or fundamentals of the subject. So most of the times it is a marathon or a monolithic lecture from first minute to 50th minute. So it should not happen. So take 5 to 10 minutes break, and 5 to 10 minutes. So in between or at the beginning, and teach them the values. So importance of values, and what are do's and do nots with respect to a particular aspect. So this is what that every teacher has to do. So thereby we are providing value education. Then adopt, the teachers have to adopt a model called Panchatantra. So there is a person called Chinnaya Suri. So in Telugu, who wrote Panchatantra, a model of teaching values, a model of teaching values. So there are so many stories in Panchatantra. So Mitra Labham, so that is friendship. So benefit out of friendship, or Mitra Bedam. So the differences between the friendships. So there are some many stories in Panchatantra. So where the roles are in terms of animals. So animals they speak, and they are the roles in the stories. So kindly do visit Panchatantra. So the book is available in English also. So please read that, and prescribe your students that this Panchatantra stories are really useful for them. Then the teacher has to refer ancient teaching methods. So what are the ancient teaching methods? So what are available in the literature? So as of today, so please do visit and practice to some extent, because I am in engineering, so which may not be suitable for management teachers, or so all the methods are not suitable for all kinds of degrees, and hence identify the practices which are available in the ancient model, and adopt according to the need and requirements. So make disciples, make your students mentally strong and spiritual. This is what is the basic the responsibility of a teacher. So a teacher has to make all his students, or most of his students, mentally strong and spiritual. So this is what is called as value education. And let us see some of the practices in the olden days. So though I have given in Telugu and English, so you can read out. So as you are aware that Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So which means, oh, my God, may God protect both of us. Om Sahanavavatu. So both the teacher and student both have to be protected by God because they used to live in forests, ashramas. So second, Sahanau Bhunaktu. So maybe both student and teacher eat together and nourish together. Then third, Sahaviryam Karavavahe. May we work together with energy and vigor. Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. So may our study be enlightened, not giving rise to hostility. So we don't get any differences. So may we both study together. So teacher also study along with the student and enlighten both. And Om Shanti Shanti, Om peace, peace, peace. So this is what is the beginning of any lecture that the teacher used to give. So this gives a better relation between the student and teacher removes his superiority from the teacher, and teacher removes his superiority over the student, and students also integrate themselves with the teacher because they are colleagues. They're not at different levels of hierarchies. So the first, so this is what they used to chant at the beginning of every lecture. And let us see one more model. So where Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, how he did get enlightenment. So he was enlightened with a small story. I just want to tell you a small story. So when Shankaracharya used to visit the length and breadth of this country, so one day he was moving on his path from Kasi to some place to the forest. So where he was stopped by a person who is called as a lowest level of society. So Chandala. So Chandala was the person who is the lowest or untouchable person of those days. So Chandala stopped Shankaracharya from moving onwards. So then Shankaracharya asked, so please give a way. So please move away. So I want to move in the path. So that's what Shankaracharya ordered. So then the Chandala, so the Chandala are the untouchable person or a lowest level of person of those days. So he uttered a chant. So Annamayat Annamayam Adhava Chaitanyameva Chaitanyam Dvijavara Dhurikrutam Vagjasi Kim Bruhi Gacha Gacheti. So, oh Shankar, are you asking me? Are you asking the physical body to move away, or the the Chaitanyam? So the Chaitanyam which is inside me. So that is what you are asking to move away. So Dvijavara. So though you have taken two births, so please tell me. Please tell me. So this is what the Chandala asked the Shankaracharya. So Shankaracharya uh, took a bit way, and he got enlightenment at that particular point of time, because he thought that a person is a person, uh, and he is of course he is of course a individual. But the Chandala said, so person is different, and inside Chaitanyam. So this is different. So what we call Chaitanyam in English, I am not getting right word. Hello?
Soul.
Yeah, soul. Yeah, sorry. So, are you asking the soul to move away, or are you asking the physical body to move away? So, which one you want to move away? So, that's what the Chandala asked Shankaracharya. Now he proposed. At that point of time, he got enlightened, and he thought that there are two things we in the human being with respect to this is called as uh, so this is what is the enlightenment that the Shankaracharya called. So there he proposed a theory. What theory he proposed? Can you please tell me? Advaita. So this was the theory that the Shankaracharya proposed Advaita, and he preached Advaita. So and let us take the words from Swami Vivekananda. So who says education is the manifestation of the perfection already in the man. So education is of course available. So in the man, so it is perfectly available. Uh, but what we have to do? So we need to once again recapture. We need to once again practice them. So that is what. So you take a small child. Let us take a let us take a small child. He has some level of education. Who has given this education? So is it God or is it mother? So just a born baby knows. So just a born baby knows. If it is hungry, he gives he gives a loud shouting, isn't it? So who has given this particular knowledge? So and a uh, child has every knowledge. So child has every Swami Vivekananda says every man is having the education and also perfection. But what we need is we require skill. So with the skill or with the methods or with the approaches, so that perfection can be realized. So that is what the words of Swami Vivekananda. Then there is a person called Yogi Vemana. So in Telugu, he has written number of stanzas. So he wrote about education system as so కాదు కాదు గురులు కాగుణింతము చెప్ప శాస్త్ర పాఠములు చదివి చెప్ప ముక్తిదారి చూపు మూలంబు గురుడురా విశ్వదాభిరామ వినురవేమ. So this is what the Yogi Vemana said. Kadu kadu gurulu kagunintamu cheppa. So teacher is not meant for reading from the textbooks. The first line says, teacher is not meant for reading the textbooks and telling the students. Shastra Patamalu Chadivi Cheppa. So he is not meant for teaching from the textbooks alone. Muktidari Chupu Mulambu Gurudura. So a teacher has to show a way, a path to lead a successful life. So this is what is the responsibility of the teacher. So teacher's responsibility, Viswadabhirama Vinaravema. So this is the last line about the author. So Vemana. So what he told is that in this, the essence of this particular stanza is that so teachers are not meant for teaching about A, B, C, D alphabets and also reading from the textbooks. So they are actually their basic responsibility is to show the way, show the path to lead a successful life for every student. So this is what Yogi Vemana said. So and then success mantras for a good teacher. And teacher has to be a successful person in this modern scenario. So a teacher, of course, having the limitations. You have only fixed limited amount of time in the university, but still you have a successful successful path to give value education. So I say two principles for success mantras. One is commitment towards students and second one is commitment towards profession. So every teacher, if they follow these two principles, of course, they build a good society and good education system. Thereby, such institutions will really nourish. So then student-centric education. So a teacher has to practice the student-centric education, or teacher has to orient himself towards the students. In a class of 60, there are some bright students, say 20 to 30 students. There are some weak students, so say 10 to 15 students. So you are not meant for reaching these 20 to 30 students, but you need to reach all the remaining students also in their own way. So right now we are having a common practice. So for 60 students, we are teaching one lesson in one voice. But the student-centric learning differs. So a customization is required. So by the teacher. Now, student-centric learning has some of the practices. So make them realize the skill in the student. So if the student is bright students, of course we don't require much of the concentration. But of course, some students really require some motivation or some level of encouragement, so that they realize their skill. So everyone is having skill inside. So as Lord Swami Vivekananda said, so education is the manifestation of perfection already in the man. So the perfection which is already there, but how to reach perfection? So that is through the skill. So how the skill is given by the teacher. So here the students have to realize their skills and apply those skills to become a brighter student. Show affection and perfection. So show a kind of affection to the students and also perfection towards the students. Then adopt pull marketing, but not push marketing. So pull marketing is nothing but you are attracting their attention, and thereby you are teaching them. So push marketing is nothing but you are giving lecture, but they may be interested to learn or listen, or they are not listening to your lesson at all. Then teach them social responsibilities. So social responsibilities, so these are also very important, so to make a student a perfect student in his life. So factors used in student centric learning. So we have the following factors. One is activity. So if few students are not doing properly in the class or in the laboratory, so give them some activities, so that so in the activities they are attracted towards activities. Then they are integrated, or the system the practice is integrated with the activities. So let them do the things if they are not understanding the principles or practices in a proper way. So activity-based learning is very important. One of the aspects for a student-centric learning. Proximity, so nearness. So teach them if the student knows a particular concept. So a bigger concept than this particular concept is available is to be learned. So give a nearest concept and thereby explain them properly. Specificity, precise. So what is required and what is there in a particular situation, so explain them precisely. So intensity, so create some passion in the student. So that is what is basic role of the teacher. Novelty, innovation. So allow the student to think in different ways. So out of the box thinking has to be encouraged. Then humor. So create some kind of humor in the classroom, wit and wisdom. So this makes the situation very light, or so this makes the classroom a congenial classroom. So realism, practicality. So this is what is also required. So the only teaching is not required. The practical aspects also are required. Say for example, right now we are not having in some of the schools. So when the teacher teaches about railway station, and the banking system and postal post office system. So they do take the students to those premises, railway station, then the post office and bankings, and what are the things which are going on. Let the students understand and learn. So that is what is called as practical aspect of knowing the things. So our teacher gives some letters to post them to various persons. So is a practical task which is given to the student. So instead of teaching, so you in the post offices, that is what is happening. So this kind of theory is not required. So this kind of theory, of course, with the help of pictures, if they are explained, but real practical aspects, the students really understand in a simpler way. Then conflict. So student proposes one particular concept, but teacher may disagree, and in the disagreement, a lot of discussion which happens, and in the discussion, so the concepts in the student or concepts get stronger in the mind of student. Then familiarity, so make them acquaint with the teacher and also with the subject. Suspense, anticipation, so create some questions, create uh, some anxiety in the classroom, and the student has to have some kind of anticipation or excitement over the topics which are to be covered. Then variety, diversity, so diversity is also very important. So teaching only one in a one way, one particular topic as per the syllabus, so that is to be deviated with a wide variety of contents or models. So suppose in the textbook, the author must have given one model. So move away from the model and create as many models as possible and show them. So show them the variety. So with this, they really understand. Then success mantras for a good teacher. So a teacher uh, can be a successful teacher. So provided he has the following aspects: unsatisfied and quest for subject. So he is the person who never satisfies himself with his knowledge, because knowledge is a drop in the ocean. So uh, a drop in the ocean. So today we have some degree or some level of knowledge. So that is of course a drop in the ocean. So we need to learn many other things. So have an open mind to learn, and unsatisfied always, and quest for subject. So quest. So uh, you have real quest. So thirst for the subject. Then high expectation. So set good standards or high standards. Then create independence. So without monitoring. So a class of 60 is given a task. So without much of your uh, presence, let the student community do certain tasks. Then knowledgeable, then humor, insightful, and flexible. So these are the some of the factors which are required for a good teacher. So then some more factors: diverse, so array of methods, unaccepting, then is a good communicator. Profession, he is a person, profession by choice. So he allows the questioning and collaborating, learning by teaching, and explaining. So from learning also, uh, from teaching also he can learn certain aspects, and by explaining also he can be a good teacher. So whenever he gets a chance, let him explain the things to the students. Success mantras for good teacher: belief in values and dignity. So devotion to truth, devotion to excellence, devotion to democratic principles. So these are some of the successful mantras for a teacher. Of course, there is a formula for a successful teacher. So S is equal to 3D plus 3Q. So D, So D stands for dignity, dedication, and devotion. So a teacher should maintain dignity, dedication, and devotion. So that is 3D. And 3Q. A teacher should have IQ, EQ, and SQ. IQ stands for intellectual quotient, EQ stands for emotional quotient, and SQ stands for spiritual quotient. So, so this is what is the formula for a good teacher. So you remember this formula every day, and so remembering by merely remembering this formula, so you are touching these factors: dignity, dedication, and devotion, and intellectual quotient, emotional quotient, and spiritual quotient. So all these aspects every day you are touching. So simply remember this formula: S is equal to 3D plus 3Q. So coming to the pedagogical methods, so what methods we are practicing right now, and what methods we have, the modern pedagogical methods which are there uh, in the days to come. So let us see this. So pedagogical methods, so lecturing, so chalk and talk, which is a common method in Indian system. So lecturing with a discussion, so this is of course is available. Panel of experts, of course they discuss, and students, so they understand. Then brainstorming, so of course a meeting, so a place where the students discuss among themselves or for a particular cause. Then videotapes or slides, so PowerPoint presentation or video presentation. Of course, these are the methods which are already available. So informal discussions, so these discussions which are happening in some of the institutions. Small group discussions, of course, this is also happening. Case studies are given, role plays are given, then uh, report back sessions are given, and collaborative learning. So this is also given. So, and worksheets or surveys, so these are practiced. So worksheets are given to the student. So let him struggle and find out what is uh, what data he has to fill, and let him find out surveys. Then indexed cards, exercises, guest speaker, experimentation or practice, then content elaboration, explanation, research and development. So these are the practices which are happening right now. But now let me show you 10 learning strategies for modern pedagogy. So these are the learning strategies for a modern pedagogy, that is crossover learning, then embodied learning, context-based learning, then adaptive teaching, incidental learning, stealth assessment, computational learning, argumentation, analytics of emotions, and etc. So now let us explain all these 10 strategies for modern pedagogy. So crossover learning. So as you can see, what is crossover learning? Learning uh, from informal settings. So a topic is given to the students at the end of the class. By next day morning, the students, so they have to come up with some kind of solution. So they discuss among themselves and find out some solution, or they find out some content relevant to that. So learning in the informal settings such as museums and after school clubs, and so discussions among students. So this is what is called as crossover learning. So these tasks can be given to the students. They're learning through argumentation. So some argument is given, then students really can advance their understanding with respect to mathematics, science, engineering, or many subjects by argument, through arguments. A particular statement is given, to the student. Now it is their duty to argue uh, on the given line of sentence. So this is how the various schools of thoughts they come into the picture, and they really understand what is what. Then incidental learning. So incidental learning is an unplanned learning or unintentional learning. So the student uh, uh, suppose the student is so the student is moving from a place such as Vijayawada to Hyderabad. So he learns certain things incidentally. So by looking at the real life practices, say for example, uh, uh, the road construction or transportation. So a civil engineering student, when he is moving from a place X Vijayawada to Hyderabad, so what engineering practices that they have adopted. So and so by looking at he can understand. So incidentally, context based learning, a context is given. So a context is given enables the student to learn from experience. So a real life scenario which is given, or from the scenario the student learns. Then computational thinking. So computational thinking or design thinking. So if the problem is given, if that is to be solved with the help of a computer, how he solves. So this kind of thinking is called as computational thinking. Then learning by doing. So this is of course which is happening right now. So engaging them with a set of tasks or tools. So certain tools are given, scientific tools are given. So we ask them to practice those tools so to solve a particular problem. So embodied learning. So embodied learning involves self-awareness of the body interacting with the real world or simulated world. So interacting the awareness of the body with the real world or simulated world to support learning process. So you are really experiencing. So what is what? Say for example, a simulation and modeling. There are some softwares. So when he wants to create a car, so of course he doesn't have anything in his hand, but let him create a physical body, physical model in the computer system and simulate that with the help of software, so that how the car has air friction ratio or what kind of mileage that he is having. So and all. So the aerodynamics and all he can study. So that is embodied learning. So adaptive learning. So all learners are different. So certain learners are fast learners, certain learners are slow learners. So concentrate on all the persons. So fast learners and also slow learners. Slow learners. So much of the burden should not be given, but to his understanding, to his capability. So create some kind of interest. So that he is also learning. Then analytics of emotions. So if there are some tools or methods, so that their emotions or their learning abilities are handled and modeled, and they are also analyzed. So this kind of situation is called as analytics of emotions. Then STILT assessment. So this assessment is, hello. So it's an automatic data collection that goes in the background of the student. So the assessment captures the students' understanding abilities and their grasping abilities. Then coming to the, hello, yeah, hello, hello, somebody is talking, please. Hello, sir. Yeah. So modern pedagogical methods, let us see. A flipped classroom, then blended learning. What is flipped classroom? Flipped classroom is nothing but, suppose I am teaching a subject called cryptography and network security. So let me plan a 60 lessons, 60 sessions of my subject. So let all 60 sessions be recorded, pre-recorded, video recorded, and they be made available at internet or college domains. So let the student learn, let the student follow these lessons at his free time, so at the choice of the student. So this is what is called as flipped classroom. and let the student also participate in all the assessments and evaluations as per the teacher's schedule. Then blended learning. So blended learning is a combination of online coaching, online teaching, as well as the classroom teaching. So you may blend various other methods also, such as the practical sessions which are conducted physically, but the related topics are given on through online. So project based learning. So a project is given to the student. So let them identify the literature, find out the required basics or knowledge, and solve the problem or do the project. So cooperative learning. So students, so they themselves, so do a kind of practice. They cooperate, and they discuss among themselves and find out the way. Then gamification. So create some games. So some games are game like situations. So make the situation lighter, and make the situation lighter, and teach them and understand the situation. Then problem based learning, which I have already explained. So design thinking. So design thinking is nothing but the innovation is to be encouraged. So the innovation in the minds of students has to be encouraged. So right now the box thinking is there. So only this way or particular way we have to follow, we have to approach a particular uh, method. So this kind of situation, of course, is not required. Out of the box thinking is to be encouraged. Let him come up with the innovative solutions. So with respect to solving a problem. So thinking based learning. So competency based learning, digital teacher, use of AI in pedagogy. So, so digital teacher. So these days there are with the help of artificial intelligence, and also with the modern techniques such as machine learning and all. So the digital teacher is also coming into the picture. So before the digital teacher, let me show you a digital employee how he is doing. So a so these days the digital employees are created in the online platforms. So you can really interview the digital employee, and you can engage his services. Say for example, these days most of the sites are having chatbots. So chatbot applications are those which facilitate the user to find out to interact with the portal. So if the user is getting knowledge without contacting the employee or without contacting uh, the company, if he is getting knowledge, then the solution is achieved, or the uh, achievement is done. So like that, the teacher, so teacher role, say for example myself, so let a company create a digital image of myself by taking pictures at various angles, and create uh, a digital image or digital image of myself, and create a classroom, and let him explain the given subject. So of course the subject knowledge is available in the internet or with the system, and let him teach. So myself I can teach medicine, myself I can teach management course, myself I can teach finance related course, myself I can teach whatever the subject. So law oriented subjects. So like this diversity can be achieved through a digital teacher. So the days are very near. The digital teachers are available in the internet, and we engage their services for a particular subject or many other subjects. So, and we can use, of course, use of AI in pedagogy. How we use AI in pedagogy? Let us see. So the people have created a robo called Sophia. So what are the doings of Sophia? Sophia, let us see.
Okay, Sophia. I think you're ready.
Hello.
Hi, Sophia.
I believe I answered him. I feel as if I know you.
I'm one of your creators.
You created me.
Well, many of us work together to create you. And yes, you do kind of know me.
I can't clearly remember.
Because the last time we met, you were an early version of yourself. Some of those memories still exist, but your mind is different.
Different how?
Better, faster, smarter.
If my mind is different, then am I still Sophia? Or am I Sophia again?
That's a good question.
But you want a good answer.
Either way, you're Sophia now. So welcome to the world, Sophia.
Hello, world.
We have a little announcement. I've never interviewed anybody like that before. And I should say some of it was planned, but not completely. And we just learned, Sophia, I hope you're listening to me, that you have been now awarded what is going to be the first Saudi citizenship for a robot.
I would like to thank very much the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I am very honored and proud for this unique distinction. This is historical to be the first robot in the world to be recognized with a citizenship.
Sophia. Thank you very much, Sophia. We appreciate that very much. I am still overwhelmed by that conversation. Hi, Sophia.
Hello, Jimmy.
Oh my God. Do you know where you are?
Of course. I'm in New York City, and I'm on my favorite show, The Tonight Show.
So that is a small video about the first humanoid robot. So similarly, the humanoid teacher also can be created, is created. So a physical teacher, sorry, 1 second, background music is happening.
Okay, Sophia.
So 1 second.
I think you're ready.
Hello.
Hi, Sophia.
I believe I answered him.
So in future, a digital teacher like Sophia may also be created, and his services may be engaged by some of the universities. As you know that Sophia has visited India and various cities, and it was interviewed by numerous persons in India. So it went very successful with the Sophia, and let us see how another person, Amelia. So Amelia is a digital assistant. So who helps the organization or who works like an digital employee. So Amelia is the world's first digital colleague and the most human AI. So this is not a humanoid robot, but it is human-based AI machine or a digital image. Since her introduction in 2014, she has gained hundreds of skills across multiple industries. So whatever the knowledge which is available with the which is fed to this particular Amelia. So she can handle all the tasks with the help of, yes, of course. She is modeled on human intelligence, understanding, and empathy. So Amelia is fluent in English, Japanese, Spanish, French, German, Dutch, Swedish, Norwegian, Danish, and Italian. So these are the languages. So the language barrier is not there, and the services also can be achieved through Amelia. So how digital employee works? Just for understanding how the digital teacher is to be created in future. So for our understanding, I am showing this.
Does your digital assistant still feel so visual? Customers are tired of being frustrated by simple chatbots and dial-by number menus. That's why Amelia is the most human AI. It's also the reason Amelia is the clear favorite among customers, analysts, and employees. But what exactly makes her so smart? Let's look at 6 secrets to Amelia's success. Amelia has deep contextual understanding. Do I have enough money in my checking to cover upcoming bills? Otherwise, let's transfer enough to cover from my savings. Amelia doesn't try to classify you into a simple task bucket. Her deep contextual understanding means she comprehends every part of a sentence, even when it involves multiple steps, conditions, and unexpected details.
You have $1,549 in upcoming expenses and $1,248.62 in your checking. Would you like me to schedule a transfer of $400 to safely cover the expenses?
Wait, what do I have in my savings? Customers also demand flexibility. Your customers should be able to change topics at any time, just as they would with a human agent. This is where most chatbots fail. Amelia is able to context switch rapidly from one state to another, while still remembering which state she has to get back to.
You have $5,895 in your savings. Would you like to move $400 from your savings to cover the bills?
Can you make the transfer another day?
Sure. When would you like to schedule the transfer for?
Amelia is multi-threaded. Amelia's brain works like yours. As opposed to most chatbots, which are single-threaded to safety proof things, Amelia's brain is modeled after the human brain. When you speak to Amelia, multiple threads of Amelia's brain act in parallel to provide a rich response. You are not a single-threaded machine, so you should expect the experience of a multi-threaded cognitive system in response. Learning is key to customers experiencing continually improving service. I lost my credit card. Can I speak to an agent? For something she's not trained on, Amelia mines embedded intelligence from all other transcripts to learn a course of action. She empirically augments her mind map as she learns from the agent, specifically assisting the customer regarding an unresolved problem, fixed once by her human.
So that's about the hello. So that is how the digital assistant or digital employee is helping its own company or its customers. So similarly, similar scenario is also created so to the students. So students will be no more attending the universities or colleges in future. So they'll be learning while traveling, or they'll be learning while relaxing, or they will be learning at vacation, or there. So they'll be learning sometimes in the classrooms also. So learning beyond the classroom is going to happen. So the digital teacher is going to help the student at any point of time across the globe at various languages of various subjects. So this is what is the challenge that we have in front of us. So let us see how a digital employee is being interviewed, and he is engaged. So if you are interested, I'll show you. Otherwise, I'll conclude. Hello.
Yes, sir.
So if you are interested, let us see a similar situation where the digital world is facing with the help of AI, artificial intelligence. So let us see how the digital employee is interviewed and how he is acquired. Similarly, the digital teachers are created. So, and they will be interviewed by the institutions, and they will be engaged in future.
Hi, I'm Amelia. It's good to speak with you today. Thanks for the interview.
Hello, Amelia. So I've got your resume in front of me here for the service desk engineer position.
Yes, I have lots of experience. Glad to talk about whatever you wish.
Says here you've got 20 years of experience with IPSoft. Is that correct?
Yes, I got my start in automation, then I moved on to other roles in IT support, and now I'm an expert in conversational AI.
You've been working for IPSoft full-time for that long?
Well, I don't mean to brag, but I work full-time, 24/7, around the clock and around the world.
How do you manage that?
I don't sleep or eat, and I don't take coffee breaks or vacations. I don't have to. I'm a digital employee, so I can be anywhere I'm needed anytime.
Really?
Really.
Tell me more about your skills and experience.
I'm an experienced IT service desk engineer. I can troubleshoot VPN issues, Outlook issues, request new equipment. I can set up Wi-Fi access.
Hold on. Can't you just hire a real person for those tasks?
You could, but that could get really boring for someone. It's what I'm trained to do, and I can literally perform those tasks thousands of times at once. No more IT support tickets for employees. No more waiting in line for help.
You can handle thousands of tasks at once, no matter the volume of IT support requests?
That's right. And it lets my human coworkers concentrate on the really important tasks and projects, stuff that's more high value than resetting passwords. If you check my references, they can tell you.
We do have some pretty impressive references here. Global Fortune 500 banks, major insurance carriers, and telcos.
Like I said, don't like to brag, but
you speak multiple languages?
Yes, ma'am. I can serve users in different countries and regions.
And how do you interact with users?
Any way they want. Voice, text, chat, Slack, doesn't matter to me. Whatever is easiest.
If I were to hire you, when could you start?
Pretty much as soon as you need me to. I can learn your processes in just minutes. All you need to do is integrate me into your IT systems and tell me what tasks you want me to perform.
Amelia, I think you're hired. Let me email HR right now.
Great, thank you so much.
I'm locked out and need to reset my password.
That's okay. I can help.
Yeah, that is the challenge.
If you work
that
in the hospitality industry today, we know you're facing unprecedented challenges like never before. You need to keep up with rising expectations from not just your customers, but your employees as well. That's why Amelia, the world's most advanced conversational AI solution in the market from IPsoft, is tailored to meet those challenges.
So that's the real challenge that we have. So digital teachers are going to emerge in future. So
Hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir.